On to more conversations as the new year begins, many of us are setting goals, making resolutions and hoping for positive change. But how realistic are New Year's resolutions, and what does psychology tell us about why we succeed or fail at keeping them? To help us unpack the mindset behind resolutions and healthy ways to approach the new year, we now speak to clinical psychologist Cynthia Uamina Beukes. A very good evening, Ms. Beukes, and thank you so much for making time to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. From a psychological perspective, why do so many people feel motivated to set resolutions at the start of a new year?
The new year is often perceived as a reset button or a clean slate, another chance at doing things right. And it is the same thing as, oh, I'll start on Monday.
Ms. Beukes?
Yes?
Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you.
All right. So how realistic are New Year's resolutions, and are they actually helpful for long-term change?
Yes, New Year's resolutions are actually quite helpful for the ones who stick to it. But most of the time we lose momentum, which we start with in the beginning of the year. We get so excited about the new thing or about the ending or the outcome that we forget that there is the in-between. Nobody, I read this. I learned that day 2 is the hardest. It's easy to start. It's easy to stop. But the days in between that you have to keep making the resolution. It's not just making the resolution once off on New Year's, but to actually make the resolution each and every time you are confronted with the choice to remain comfortable or to change.
Would you say that's the reason why so many people would perhaps abandon their resolutions within the first week or months of the year?
Yes, most definitely. We do not make plans to actually keep ourselves accountable. We do not make plans to actually have a hard time changing, because the truth is our vices or whatever habits that we want to change actually have an advantage, or there is something that they do for us. So if I take substances because I'm nervous, because it calms me down, now if the resolution is to quit the substances, I will be faced with the anxiety. So the vice does have an advantage, and we need to just admit that to ourselves, but then be brave enough to actually choose different.
So what does psychology tell us about motivation and also habit formation when it comes to resolutions?
Well, they used to think that once you're an adult, your brain cannot change anymore. But the new information tells us that our brains are neuroplastic, which means they can change. And that means the more you repeat an action, the more automatic it becomes to you, because your brain has now built a new pathway for that action. And this is the same like maybe building a muscle, or let me take playing an instrument, right? You would, in the beginning, you would not be able to do it. You'll have to stop and start and so on. But the more you do it, the better you become at it. And you don't lose the ability, even if you don't practice it. But it becomes more difficult to actually do it if you don't practice regularly.
Why is it that we have some resolutions that are more likely to succeed than others?
That actually depends on, these resolutions have to align with our values, because then they will be more successful because they are connected to what you truly believe. And you also have to know what type of person you are. Many times they say community is everything. You have to be accountable to someone, but maybe that's just not the sort of person you are. You would rather do something alone. And if you know that if you are not accountable to someone else, then get accountability. Just know yourself deeply when you do these things.
So how do perfectionism and all or nothing thinking affect our ability to stick to goals?
Yeah, all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking is actually one of the worst thought errors that we can have. So many of us think that if you slip or just veer off the path that you have set for yourself, that you have failed. And then they do not actually, or they think they have failed the entire journey. But we have to start thinking about resolutions as progress over perfection.
How can people set goals in a way that supports mental health rather than creating pressure or guilt? That basically also just speaks to the unrealistic goals that we set for ourselves.
Yes. So social media, I think social media plays a big role in this. Before social media, we probably had keeping up with the Joneses, the neighbors and all of that. But now we actually have keeping up with the entire whole world. We have these trends and unrealistic views of what life is, and these falsified realities that are completely far removed from our own realities. And we just go on these trends that are being set by other people in different economic circumstances. And it really takes away from what we want, what we actually need.
Some people are moving away from resolutions and they are working their way towards intentions or perhaps theme for the year. What are your thoughts on this approach?
I really don't know. I should tell you, this to me sounds like tomato, and more a psychological attempt at softening the fall or cushioning the fall from making a resolution and then not following through with it.
So what are some of the 2 to 3 practical steps that you would give someone who wants real lasting change this year?
Okay. Number one, really just take the time to listen to yourself, to look at what is important to you, what do you value the most, and then break that down into smaller chunks. So that could be like, I want to have better relationships this year. So what does that mean? That means maybe calling my mother 3 times a week. So those are the smaller chunks. And when I do those smaller chunks, it leads to the bigger goal. But also ask yourself, the goals that I want or the life that I want, what is the life that I want? And what is currently standing in your way for attaining that life you want? And what are the solutions to those obstacles? And then solve those obstacles. So many times we think that, oh yeah, no, I just don't have time. But if you look at, okay, so how can I solve the issue of not having time? You actually come up with a solution and you can follow through.
All right. Ms. Beukes, thank you so much for making time to talk to us, and we wish you a great year ahead.
Thank you. Same to you.
That was Cynthia Uamina Beukes. She is a clinical psychologist joining us this evening, talking to us about New Year New resolutions, also just highlighting the fact that we should keep our resolutions as realistic as possible for them to not affect our mental health. We will be back with the hot topic only after a quick trip to the market.